The sea was impossibly clear that morning, a sheet of shimmering turquoise stretching out beyond the edge of sight. Gale and David floated on the surface, snorkels and fins cutting slow, graceful shapes in the water. Below them, the reef glittered. Coral castles, darting fish, an endless museum of colors. They had come to Bermuda for peace, for sun, for adventure, but mostly to be alone. David dove first. He was lean, athletic, experienced. He disappeared beneath the surface with ease, leaving Gale to follow a moment later. Her heartbeat slowed as the water wrapped around her. Sound faded. Thoughts quieted. It wasn't long before David spotted something strange. Half buried in the sand below a ledge was an object. Something out of place among the rocks and sponges. It gleamed faintly, like metal. He signaled to Gale, who swam beside him. Together, they brushed away the sand and silt to reveal a glass vial, sealed with wax still intact. Inside it, an oily amber liquid swirled like honey under moonlight. David looked at Gale. She shook her head. They surfaced. Back on the boat, their guide Romer, a wiry local with eyes that seemed to know more than he said, took one glance at the vial and grew quiet. "Better you throw that back where you found it," he muttered. David pressed. Romer hesitated. "There's a wreck down there," Romer finally said. "Old, from the war. A medical ship, carried morphine ampoules, a lot of them." Gale frowned. "Is that dangerous?" Romer looked out to sea. "Only if people know it's there." But David's curiosity was lit. He wanted to go back. They returned the next day with diving gear, tanks, lights, bags. Romer reluctantly led them down, deeper this time, past the reef into darker water where the light turned green and everything slowed. And there it was, a wrecked freighter, broken in half, resting like a dead beast on the ocean floor. Time had eaten it. Rust, coral, collapsed beams, but the bones remained, and within the hold, ampoules by the hundreds. David collected a few, carefully. Gale explored the nearby seabed. She found something else, sponges, not like the ones in the reef. These pulsed, they glowed faintly, moved, even, when touched. She reached out, gently, and something reached back. Her vision tilted, the ocean shimmered, then shifted. Colors bled into one another, and suddenly she saw two moons above the surface, swirling in slow circles. Her hands pulsed, her thoughts splintered. David grabbed her shoulder. She gasped, blinked. The sea snapped back into place. They surfaced, panting. "You all right?" he asked. She nodded. "Just pressure, maybe." But she didn't sleep well that night. The dream started. Visions of bodies floating upward like lanterns, of glowing jellyfish whispering in voices she almost understood, of a ship with sails made of skin, crewed by men without eyes. David, too, became restless. He spoke of the ampoules, of treasure, of how this could change everything. Money, fame. Romer warned them again. "There's something wrong down there," he said. "Always has been. I've seen strong men come up screaming, seen them dive again and not come back." But they didn't stop. Each dive, the water felt stranger, heavier, as if watching them. David started seeing things, shadows that darted just out of reach, lights flickering inside the ship. Once he swore he saw a face pressed against the porthole, staring at him. A drowned sailor, perhaps, or something else. And the sponges, they were spreading. Gale noticed patches of them appearing in new places, creeping up the wreck's walls like mold. Their color deepened, became more vibrant. And whenever she was near them, her mind went quiet. Thoughts slowed. The sea whispered. One afternoon, David didn't come up on time. She waited, then dove. She found him floating near the wreck, breathing, eyes wide. "David," she said through her mask. He turned slowly, smiled. "Saw it," he said through the bubbles. "I saw where it leads." They surfaced together. That night, David didn't sleep. He wandered the beach, muttering to himself. He said the sponges were a gate, that the wreck wasn't just a ship, it was a lock, and something inside was still alive. Gale tried to reason with him, but he was lost in it, obsessed. The next morning he was gone, tanks missing, boat missing. She dove alone. The sea was darker than before. The light didn't reach as far, fish avoided her, even the coral seemed wilted. She found the wreck. Inside it was different, cleaner, almost intact. The ampoules were gone, and the sponges, they covered everything now. The walls pulsed like breathing flesh. She floated through the corridors, her flashlight dimming. Then she saw him. David, standing at the end of the hall. He wasn't wearing gear. He smiled, eyes glowing faintly. He raised his hand. "Come see," he said, though the water should have stopped his voice. She hesitated. He turned, drifted deeper into the wreck. She followed. The deeper she swam into the wreck, the more the ship seemed alive. Walls shimmered with a translucent sheen. The corridors bent gently, not like metal giving way to pressure, but like muscle reacting to movement. The sponges coated every surface now. Some glowed a soft red, others pulsed with green veins. They quivered as she passed, releasing faint clouds of silvery particles that drifted through the water like dust in sunlight. Gail's breathing grew slower. Her thoughts stretched thin. Her flashlight flickered. David was still ahead, always just turning a corner before she could reach him. He didn't swim. He drifted, effortless, as if the ship were carrying him along. She entered a chamber. The walls curved inward, dome-like, and at its center was a massive sponge unlike any other, huge, breathing, surrounded by smaller tendrils that snaked up toward the ceiling. It pulsed in rhythm, like a heartbeat. David stood in front of it. He turned to face her. His face was calm, his features soft and glowing with an otherworldly sheen. His eyes weren't quite human anymore. They swirled faintly, like ink dropped in water. "I understand it now," he said. His voice, impossibly, reached her through the water. "This isn't death, it's memory." She floated still, hypnotized. "The ship wasn't just a carrier," he said. "It brought something with it, something alive, or something that was waiting for us to find it. It remembers. Everything, everyone it touches." He turned back to the sponge. "It showed me things," he whispered. "The ocean before it had a floor. Cities made of salt. The first voice ever spoken. We weren't supposed to forget." Gail's mask fogged. Her heartbeat was irregular. Her body felt detached, as if she were watching herself from somewhere nearby. The walls seemed to breathe faster now. The water was thick with the floating silver motes. She felt a pull, gentle but constant, toward the central sponge. A presence. It wasn't just growing. It was listening. She shook her head, tried to turn back. Her limbs moved slowly like they were caught in syrup. Then she heard a whisper. Inside her head, "Stay." Not from David, from the sponge. The wreck. The sea. You remember too. Images poured into her mind. Brief flashes, an open mouth screaming soundlessly underwater, the interior of a submarine covered in vines of living coral, sailors laughing as their bodies melted into the sea foam, her own hand reaching out toward a glowing mass in the deep, a memory that didn't belong to her, but felt like hers. She gasped. Her mouth filled with water. The shock brought her back. She kicked hard, turned from the chamber, and pushed herself down the corridor. The sponge tendrils reached for her. Some brushed against her leg, her arm, sending pulses of warmth through her body, like morphine melting into her veins. She ignored it. She swam faster. The exit appeared ahead, jagged metal torn open to the sea. As she swam through, she turned to look back. David was still standing there, watching her. He didn't move. The sponge beside him glowed brighter, wrapping gently around his shoulders like a robe. She surfaced in a panic, coughing, retching onto the deck of Romer's boat. Her vision was shaking. Everything felt unreal, like she hadn't come up at all, just surfaced into another hallucination. Romer caught her. "You saw him," he said quietly. She nodded. "He stayed?" Romer asked. Another nod. Romer didn't speak for a long time. Then he said, "The wreck claims people, but not with force, with truth. It shows them what they forgot, and some of them want to remember." She didn't dive again for days, but the dreams came back stronger. One night, she awoke with her feet wet. She had sleepwalked into the surf, the waves curling around her ankles. She looked out to sea, and for a moment, just one breath, she saw a soft light pulsing under the water, far offshore, like a heartbeat, calling. She returned to the water the next morning, not for David, not for the ampoules, but because something deep within her needed to know. She dove alone. The ocean was calm. The wreck waited. Inside, the sponge had grown. It now covered the floor, the ceiling, the corners of every room. Tendrils moved with awareness. The walls no longer resembled metal. They curved like bone. She descended once more into the chamber. David was still there, but this time he didn't move. The sponge had enveloped him completely. His face was visible beneath a translucent membrane, eyes closed, peaceful. He looked neither alive nor dead, just preserved, held. The central sponge pulsed. Warmth radiated from it. The water shimmered with those familiar silver particles. Gale drifted closer. "You remember," it whispered again. And this time, she didn't resist. The water around her thickened with memory. Not her own, but memories imprinted in the sponge, absorbed through decades of shipwrecks, storms, lost divers, and deep-sea secrets. The glowing chamber pulsed with knowledge, each breath drawing her deeper into a trance. Gale no longer felt the weight of her gear. Her body was numb, drifting, a soft vessel for the voice that now moved inside her. "The sea keeps everything," it whispered, and it began to show her. Images surged through her, waves of memory that passed not through her eyes, but through her soul. She saw the ship as it had once been, intact and shining, its decks filled with soldiers and crates. She saw fear, men sweating, shouting, waves rising too high, a terrible storm. And then the moment it happened. Something was in the cargo hold, something that hadn't been packed by hands. The sponges had already started growing when the ship left port. Some said they were unusual, but war left little room for curiosity. The sponges spread quietly, unnoticed, breathing, changing, learning. Then when the storm hit, they awoke fully. The sea broke the ship in half. It sank in silence. The crew did not drown, they were absorbed. The vision shifted. Gale saw others. Divers, explorers, smugglers over the decades. One by one they entered the wreck, and one by one they were touched. The sponge offered memory. Some resisted. Others surrendered. David had surrendered. And now it was her turn. She felt the tendrils brush her faceplate, soft as silk, leaving glowing trails behind. The membrane around David pulsed beside her. He was dreaming. He was still alive, somewhere deep inside the sponge, living not one life, but many. Every memory it carried, his now too. "You can stay," the voice whispered. "You'll never forget again. You'll never be alone." For a moment, Gale felt it. Deep peace, to lose the weight of time, to become part of something ancient, to drift forever in a warm living archive. Every soul, every story held and remembered. She reached out, her fingers touched the surface, and she saw herself, older, hollow-eyed, translucent, drifting in the dark forever. She pulled her hand back. "No," she said aloud. The voice dimmed. "You're afraid. I'm alive," she answered. "And I want to stay that way." The water around her churned. The sponge seemed to ripple in slow, deliberate waves. The chamber darkened. The exit was far. But she moved. Her limbs were heavy now. The tendrils clung. One wrapped around her wrist, pulsing gently like a heartbeat. Another brushed her leg. A third reached toward her mask. She kicked hard, twisting, her hand grabbing a jagged edge of pipe protruding from the wall. With one sharp tug, she ripped free, tearing the sponge from her wrist. A low moan echoed through the chamber, not from her, not from any creature, but from the ship itself. She swam. The corridors bent and shifted, but she didn't stop. The more the wreck twisted, the more she moved. No more hallucinations, no more dreams, just the need to escape. The exit came into view, a torn hole of sunlight far above. She reached it, broke through, and shot toward the surface. Her lungs screamed. The world exploded in brightness as her head broke the waves. She gasped. Air. Salt. Light. Romer's boat was waiting. She climbed aboard in silence. He said nothing. He handed her a towel. They left the wreck behind. Back on land, Gale tried to explain, but what could she say? There was no proof. No pictures, just stories. And stories could be forgotten, but not by her. She carried the memory now, like a second heart beating just beneath her ribs. She never dove again. She moved inland, far from the ocean, far from the pulsing call of the deep. But sometimes in sleep she still felt it, the warmth, the whisper, the soft pull of the sponge, offering memory, offering peace. She never returned, but she never really left.